Today is April the 19th, 2018. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I'm in Oklahoma City to speak with Don Bartolina. And this is part of our Oklahoma's Conservation Heritage Oral History Project, and we're going to begin with learning when and where you were born.
I was born in Colton, Oklahoma. It's a little bitty town in Okmulgee County, and I was born in 1936.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your parents.
My parents were the first generation born here. My mother's parents came from France. My dad's parents came from Italy. So it was quite an interesting combination when they got married and had French and Italian backgrounds.
And how did they end up in Okmulgee County?
They migrated here, their parents migrated here to work in the coal mines.
Oh, okay.
So in eastern Oklahoma, they both took the same route to come here. They came from Ellis Island, southeast Kansas, to work in that coal field. They didn't know each other. And then they moved to the Henrietta area, the Okmulgee County, to work in the coal field there, which and my parents were born there. So.
And that's what they did for a living?
They did. Their parents did. My grandfather was he was killed in the coal mines from a rock slide on my mother's side. My grandfather on my dad's side, he worked in the coal mines and actually owned one of the small coal mines for a while. So, but my dad's grandmother and grandfather, my grandfather and grandmother, they owned a grocery store. So, and then did a little farming on the side.
And then when your dad came along, what did he end up doing for a living?
He did a little farming and then worked in the grocery store.
Okay.
So.
And do you have brothers and sisters?
I had two brothers and two sisters. One of my oldest brother died in a boating accident, and I have one brother, younger, lives in West Virginia. My sister, her husband was killed in the same boating accident. So she's been a widow for several years, and so she moved to West Virginia with my brother and his wife. So, and my little sister lives in Ada, or outside of Ada.
So two here, two there, huh?
Yes.
And where did you go to elementary?
Well, actually, I went to Schulter, another place that you've probably never heard of. And it was a mile from Colton. It's in Okmulgee County. Elementary and high school all together.
All 12 grades in one building?
I tell people that I graduated in the top 10 of my class, but I don't tell them there was only 12 people in my class.
Well, did you have a favorite subject?
Actually, math and probably geography. Liked English. I did not like literature, though. I'm not a reader, so that's But my favorite deal was basketball. I was a real basketball star in my own mind.
What position did you play?
I played forward.
And was the team very good?
Well, I thought we were.
Okay.
We didn't take home many trophies, but I thought we were good, so we had a lot of fun. So.
Yes, true. Well, did they have 4-H or FFA?
I was in 4-H, yes.
4-H. Was not.
We didn't have FFA in our school. We had 4-H, and so.
Well, would that take you to Roundup in Stillwater?
I did not go to Roundup. The biggest trip I got was to the American Royal in Kansas City in 1952 or 3. First time I had been into the big city. I'd never stayed in a big hotel and seen the lights like they were in Kansas City and the people, and so it was quite an experience.
How did you get there?
Our 4-H agent.
By car?
Yes.
What did you take? What was your project, or what were you presenting there?
Actually, I won it from my record book that I prepared and entered, so.
And what was your project for that, though?
We didn't have it, we just went to different events.
Okay.
So.
Didn't have to raise a calf and
No,
all
didn't do
that?
that. I raised pigs when I was in 4-H.
Okay.
And I had one calf my senior year, so, one steer. So, but I never got past the county show, so.
Okay. And while you were like a senior in high school, did you know what you wanted to do past that?
I knew I wanted to go to college. There hadn't been a whole lot of people from my family that had gone. I had two uncles that went to college. But I knew I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to major in. And the county agent kind of directed me to agriculture. And then I wasn't sure what part of agriculture I wanted to major in. But after I was there, after my freshman year, I decided agronomy would be the area that I want to go in. And then decided on the soils option after I got into agronomy. So.
And I have learned the hard way not to refer to it as dirt.
That's
but
right.
It's
soil. As we have said, dirt's that stuff under the bed or under your fingernails. But
so you graduated from high school in
55.
55, and
Yeah.
then went to
Oklahoma A&M.
A&M. Why there?
I was fascinated with Oklahoma A&M basketball, and I just thought it'd be a good place to go. So.
Who was the coach then? Iba?
Henry Iba was the coach then. So.
And where did you live once you got there?
East Bennett. Biggest place I'd ever seen when we drove into that campus. One of my high school classmates and I were roommates.
Well, that helped to know somebody.
It did. We both got in that Sunday afternoon and kind of hibernated in our room while we were scared to get out. We were both from small. That school that had 12 people in the class.
Did you have your own car, or did your parents just drop you?
They dropped us off. It was kind of frightening when they dropped us off and took off. You know.
Now what?
We didn't have cell phones to call them. You know, so.
And probably 1 or 2 suitcases, and that was it.
A suitcase.
A suitcase. Okay.
Yeah, that was plenty. It probably wasn't full either.
Well, did you have a student job while you were there?
I didn't when I first got there. After a while, got acquainted with the campus. I applied for a job, and my first job was a janitor in the chemistry building, the old chemistry building up there. So it's kind of interesting to clean up all the spilled chemicals and everything that was in there. And then I got a job at the OSU the Bennett Hall cafeteria, and I worked there for 3 or 4 years.
Did you get to eat there for free then if you worked there?
No, nope, I ate there, but I didn't get to. It wasn't very expensive back then. I can't recall, maybe room and board was maybe like $40 a month or something. So,
yeah.
But at 40, it's hard to come up with the $40. So.
So did your parents help a little bit, or you were,
Yes.
or you were
Yeah.
on your own?
Yeah, they helped a little bit.
How often would you go home?
We tried to go home about once a month. We would find somebody going that direction, or a couple times we hitchhiked. My roommate and I hitchhiked.
That was fun, I guess.
It was. I wouldn't recommend it today, but back then it was a way of transportation. So.
Would people pick you up, pretty
yeah.
easy?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We didn't get kidnapped or anything like that, so I guess they didn't want us. So.
And did you do your own laundry while you were there?
We did my own laundry, yes. Don't do a maroon sock with your underwear, I found out. pink underwear wasn't in at that time.
Your mother probably got a chuckle out of that.
Yes, she did. So, yeah, we did our own laundry.
Well, were you involved with any student organizations?
Not the first year. Probably into the second year, I began to get brave enough to move into an organization. Some friends was in the horticulture club, talked to me about joining the horticulture club, and I did that. And then in agronomy, I joined the agronomy club. And so.
What were some of the things you would do in those clubs?
Horticulture club, we help with sales of plants and things like that. Just help support the club. And the agronomy club, we also helped with some of the high school judging things, and so.
Were they doing poinsettia sales at that point?
Yes, they.
So
yeah.
it's been going on that long?
Yes, it's been going on a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's
Probably more extensive today and more varieties than they had when we were helping with it, but.
Happen to remember how much they cost?
No.
I mean, I'm sure that's changed.
They were probably
a lot
$1 too.
So you would have graduated from there 59?
59.
59.
My wife came up there in 56. We had dated a few times in high school, and so when she came to college, we started dating seriously, and we got married in 58, the summer of 58, before graduation, and so our senior year we were married.
You moved into married student housing at that point?
No, we lived in the same, we lived in a little house just north of the football stadium. A little shotgun house that was built during probably after World War II.
Is it still there?
Little bitty house, and it's gone now. The athletic training facility took it out.
Okay.
And then after graduation, we went back to our hometown area. We called it Henrietta, in the hometown. And I worked for the Pittsburgh Plate Glass Company for a while. I couldn't get a job. I was kind of disappointed, a graduate, and couldn't find a job at the time, so I worked at the glass plant for 6 or 7 months, making $2 an hour. So.
But the degree was in agronomy?
Agronomy, yes, yeah. But when they found out I had a degree, they put me out as one of the gardeners. So, because not many of the people working in the glass plant wanted to work as a yard maintenance person, and I kind of enjoyed that. So.
You get a pay raise?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I got the pay raise out of that. But, and then I decided to go back to graduate school. And so I went to Stillwater and talked to Dr. Gray, who was teaching soil morphology, and he helped me. I didn't get a scholarship, but he employed me with the agronomy department, so I had little source of income. And my wife was a switchboard operator, so she was making. When we were in undergraduate, we both had jobs. I was making 50 cents an hour, and she was making 55. Now, see, things were unequal back then. So, but she was a switchboard operator. She was not happy when they changed the name from Oklahoma A&M to Oklahoma State, because when all the calls that came into the campus went through the switchboard, all of them. So they had to change their wording. So
They take a little practice.
yeah, and they wouldn't let them say OSU. They made them say Oklahoma State University when they answered the call.
Where was the switchboard? Do you
On
know?
the top floor of the Life Science Building. Nobody knew where it was.
Hmm.
So, and we, after about midnight, they kept one person up on the switchboard. And on the weekends, we would stay up there and she'd get a lot of hours. I'd go stay with her. They had a sofa in there. I'd sleep while she answered incoming calls.
Hey, it worked, huh?
So, yeah.
So you got your master's from OSU too?
I got my master's. I worked on it for a year and a half, and then I had an opportunity to go to work with the Bureau of Reclamations in Townsend, Montana, long ways off.
Long way, yes.
And so we had one child and one on the way, and so it was time to go to work at that time. So I took the job up there, and then I was fortunate enough to get a job. I got transferred back to Oklahoma, and so I started my career with the Soil Conservation Service in Watauga as a soil scientist.
And what year do you remember?
Do what?
What year
1961.
you came back here? Okay.
Yes. And I spent a couple of years at Watauga working on the soil survey there, and was transferred then to Chandler, helped with that soil survey, and then I went to Wewoka to work on Seminole County, and on that survey I was the party chief of that. Now the party was me, but I was the chief. Worked on that one for 3 or 4 years, and then went to Tulsa and started that soil survey, and we was doing some innovative stuff, things there, trying to get a different type of soil survey where the urban people could have more urban friendly, and so, and
Like what? I'm curious.
well, we were where they would use it in land use planning and urban things like locating waste disposal plants and stuff like that. So
Subdivisions?
subdivisions, yes, yeah, septic tanks. So we were trying to get the urban users to use it for more than just in agricultural purposes. And then after that, I never finished a job. I always transferred someplace. There was an opening here in Oklahoma City working with the state planning agency I was on a intergovernmental personnel assignment. I was a federal employee assigned to a state agency. So I did that for 2 years. And then after that I had several different other jobs. So that was quite an experience working with the state planning agency. So.
You hopped around just a little bit.
Yes, but after that, after I moved down here, I didn't have to move anymore. I've been in the same house I've been in since 1973.
Ah.
So.
And with each one of those moves, it was a more
Promotion. Yeah.
Promotion. Okay.
Yeah.
What's involved in a soil survey? Just the basics of what you do for. What would you be doing?
You go out and you actually dig holes.
Okay.
And look to do a soil investigation, see what kind of soils there are. See if it's sand, clay, how deep it is to rock, how much slope it has, whether it's in a floodplain, and those kind of things. And then we make interpretations of the value of it for crop production, or again for any kind of septic tank or foundations, whether it's got a high shrink swell, whether some of the soils in this area are the red clay soils that have, when it gets dry, you have those cracks appearing. Well, that's a sign of a high shrink swell. When it dries, it shrinks, and when it gets wet, it swells. And so, and and then we do this, we record all this on aerial photographs.
Okay.
So they have a little fancier equipment now. Than what we did. We just carried a aerial photograph to the field with us and did it. Now they have the computers and stuff in their trucks that they can record all that, but still using aerial photographs.
So would you have to do a chemical analysis or something like that too?
We did physical analysis mostly. If we wanted to do anything chemical, we had to send it to the lab.
And I was reading sometime that during there the classification system changed.
Yes, I was in college when the classification system came, and Dr. Gray, that I mentioned earlier, taught a course in soil morphology and all we did was study the change in the classification system. We called it the seventh approximation. It was the seventh approximation of that classification system and the last one before they adopted it. So, and it was completely foreign to all of us. And so I was fortunate to be in on that, and there was three soil scientists that worked for SCS at the time that was in that class, and so we thought we were so smart. We knew all this stuff that all these other guys didn't know. And I said guys at the time. We didn't have any female soil scientists.
Oh, okay.
So,
who were the other two guys?
Everett Cole, who still lives in Stillwater. He retired in our state office. And Jim Culver. He retired as a regional soil scientist out of Lincoln, Nebraska. He's still in Lincoln.
So what year did you graduate from Oklahoma?
Actually, I never got my master's till 72, I guess.
You went back and finished whatever you needed?
Finished up and got my thesis and got that completed finally. Took about 10 years to get it. So.
Hey, life got in the way, didn't it? Or moved along, not got in the way necessarily. But you finished.
I did. It did. And my kids and grandkids have gone to Stillwater. Well, before all of the everything was online, and they've looked up my thesis, and they said, "Grandpa's got a book in the library."
Leaves an impression.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So, what's your earliest memory of a conservation practice? I mean, with your father or grandfather, did they have terraces or something like that?
When I was in 4-H in the early 50s, the feed store in Okmulgee offered a bag of fertilizer to use for us 4-H kids. I don't even know how big the bag was, but it was a bag of fertilizer. And I took it home, and my dad said, "Well, we've been using manure for years." So I said, "Yeah, this is kind of something new." And so we took a little plot in our cornfield and used that fertilizer and saw the difference it made in how green the corn was and how much better.
I was going to say, was it better or worse?
It was better. Yeah. So just using some, and so that was probably the first conservation practice, other than what my grandfather and great-grandfather used was the manure. So they always cleaned out the barns and took it to the gardens.
Well, I mean, that's what they had. So.
Yes, yeah.
Well, did your father switch once he saw the difference?
We started using a little bit of fertilizer, but it's kind of expensive to use, so
Yeah.
as it is today, you know. So, but that's the first time that I really saw any kind of a conservation or soil improvement. So.
And that kind of helped make your decision down the road that you wanted to do some of this. Once you got here to Oklahoma County, how is it, the county itself, different? What would you do here compared to your other places that you were at?
Well, when you're in an urban county like this, you have a lot of people asking a lot of questions, and they're strange questions at times, you know, not to them, but to you. And when you're working with them, you don't assume that they know anything. Because if you're working with a farmer, he's been out on the land, he understands a lot of this. But they're completely oblivious to what's under their house or in their 5 acres. I mean, they think you can have 5 horses on 5 acres and have, you know, a nice paddock with grass, and that just won't happen. You know, that just, but you get a lot of neighbor problems. My neighbor's dumping water on me. What can we do about it? You know, this kind of thing.
So that comes through here?
Well, they're looking for someone to help, so.
Water runoff, storm.
And then we also do a lot of grade school education programs. We have what we call natural resource days. A school will request us to come out or set up a natural resource day, or that they can bring their class out. And most of the time, the Oklahoma City schools or suburban schools will have 3 or 4 classes of, say, 3rd or 4th graders, and we take them out to Lake Arcadia. We have a site out there that we use different people to do water conservation, maybe soils, depending on who's available, maybe something on forestry, and then we have a pond that's well stocked with fish, and we have some volunteers from the Oklahoma Wildlife Department come out and let the kids fish for a while. So a lot of these are inner city kids that's never been out and never got to fish before. So
Never seen a pole, huh?
yeah, so their first fish it's very exciting. So.
Is it catch and release?
Oh yeah, catch, kiss, and release. So,
What do they use for bait?
worms.
And do they have to get those themselves? Are they provided?
We
Provide
provide the worms for them. So.
As they get older, do you do something for high schoolers?
Not much for high schoolers. We concentrate on elementary, and we're limited on the number of natural resource days we can do because of availability of people to help. So it takes quite a bit of coordination. So.
Well, how many would be in a staff
In class?
In this office, staff here.
Right now, there's 2. We have the state and the federal.
Okay.
We have the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and that's 1 person in this office, and then from outside they help. And then the Conservation District, who I work for now, is Becky and I. She's the secretary, and I'm so-called the district manager. So, but we call on a lot of other resource people to help us.
So you're not retired?
I've retired. I retired from the federal government. I started to work for the Soil Conservation Service. Then they changed the name to the Natural Resource Conservation Service. In 2001, I retired from the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and then I became the executive director for the Oklahoma Association of Conservation Districts. I did that for 4 years. I was their first. For a while I was their best, but now I'm just their first. And then I've been working since, I did that for 4 years, so in 05 or '06, I started working for the Conservation District on part-time. And so I'm still here working part-time.
So what do you do any given day now?
Well, right now,
Yeah.
we're in the middle of the National Land and Range Judging Contest.
Okay, that's a good segue. Let's learn about that.
We coordinate that out of our office. It's a contest we're getting ready for the 67th year.
67.
It's been held in Oklahoma City every year. And on the first week in May, we'll have about 650 4-H and FFA kids and about 300 sponsors, coaches, parents coming in here.
From just the state or out all across the country? It's national, so it's across
It's national.
Okay.
We'll have about 35 states represented.
Wow.
And they have to qualify in their state. And what they do, they judge soil for agriculture production, and they also judge it for home site evaluation. And then part of the contest is rangeland evaluation for grazing and wildlife purposes. So it's a pretty big deal.
So 3 big prizes?
Do what?
3 big prizes? One for each category?
Well, no, we have more. We have several trophies.
Okay.
We'll have the national champion, reserve champion, and the individual and team. So
how long are they here?
Most of them will come in on the Monday, April the 30th, and leave on the 4th of May. It's always the first week in May.
So the whole week?
The contest is on Thursday. We have the awards banquet at the National Cowboy, whatever that name of it is, museum. And we max the Great Hall out, 1,000 people at the banquet.
And how long have you been involved with it?
Well, I've actually been involved, I've been to every one of the contests since '61. But in 1985, I took over as helping coordinate the contest. And now I've got the coordination job, but we have a lot of good people working. I mean, the NRCS people, the conservation districts, 4-H, FFA, a lot of groups, farm groups, American Farmers and Ranchers, Farm Bureau, Ag Credit. I mean, Oklahoma, I don't want to leave people out, but we have a lot of people working. The Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Bureau contributes, the Sirloin Club. So we have a lot of people, probably 200 volunteers.
Takes a little bit to work the logistics, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
It does. And it's very, very rewarding.
The Oklahoma children tend to rise to the top?
Well, actually, no.
No?
I mean, we have some of these. West Virginia is one of the best, has probably won more awards lately. Indiana comes away with a lot of the awards. But Texas, but they have to compete in their states. They have to win the contest in their states. So we're right in the middle of that right now. So
What's the most fun part of that for you?
Seeing the anticipation on judging day of the kids, seeing how excited they get, and we headquarter at the Wyndham Hotel, and they all can't stay there because they don't have enough room, so they stay around there. We go to the field in a caravan, and with Oklahoma City Police Department, escorts us out of town to the site. And it's, and I get to lead the group, and it's about between 200 and 250 cars and buses and trucks behind me.
Oh.
So it makes quite an impression on the people. They're thinking, when they see these cops going, motorcycle cops, with their lights blinking, and then they pull over at the side of the road thinking it's some kind of funeral or something. And then the people, after a while, think, what is going on, you know? So.
Important children.
Yes.
Important group.
And then the whole contest, and seeing the kids walk across the stage and get their awards. And so
Well, if it's a rainy day, do you still do it?
we've never canceled. We've had to delay it for a while, not because of rain, but because of lightning.
Hmm.
So they go out in the, they come prepared. They come out.
Get muddy if they have to.
Yes. About 4 years ago, it was very, very cold, 32 degrees, wind howling out of the north, a little bit of rain and sleet coming down. And that was probably the worst day that we've had. I mean, it was cold. So, but we've been out there in rainstorms and they're sloshing in the mud. They have to dig. For the land and home site, they have to investigate a pit that we've dug. So they have to get out in there, slosh around sometime in the mud. But
Do you change that up each year?
yes,
A
we
little bit?
go to a different location. It's a secret location because these
It's a serious
teams,
business, huh?
they will go out and try to figure out where it is. So I would tell you where it is this year, but it's a secret. I can't. So
But it's somewhere in Oklahoma County.
it's in the vicinity of. It's within 30 or 40 miles of Oklahoma City.
Okay. And it's same vicinity each year, or do you move
We
around?
move around. Last year we were on a farm and down by Amber.
So you have to get a local farmer willing to
Farmer.
host it, or
We feed lunch at the site. Feed 1,200 people out in the field.
so that would be a production too.
We got this caterer and he can do it. He's done it before. He knows how to get them through the line.
It's
So,
more than just a peanut butter sandwich, huh?
we usually have a fresh ham sandwich out in the field with potato chips and baked beans and a cookie and a drink. So,
Okay.
and then we have a buffet at the Cowboy Hall of Fame for their banquet.
And it's 4-H or FFA?
4-H and FFA.
Oh, both of them.
We have separate divisions.
Okay.
So Russell Pearson he's deceased now, but he was he was a farm director for WKY radio and TV, and he ran the contest for a long time, and I kind of took over from him when he got old. He lived to be 102.
I interviewed him.
Okay.
Sweetheart, yes.
Yes.
Great guy with his cowboy hat.
Yep. Yep. In his later years, his mind was very good, but his body just wore out.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, another one that I noticed got it was Richard Dreesen.
Ralph Dreesen.
Ralph.
Yeah,
His brother
Ralph.
was Richard.
Yeah.
Ralph.
Ralph Dreesen.
I haven't talked with him too before he passed away for the
Yeah.
Centennial Farm.
Uh-huh.
But Russell Pearson, yeah, he was exceptional.
Yeah. He was kind of my mentor on running the contest. Make sure that the volunteers know that they're appreciated. So,
Well, yeah, that's key.
So.
Any surprises? Any moments that just stand out from that? Besides the sleet and the 32-degree weather?
The big surprise is it just keeps happening every year.
You-
It just,
It's a highlight of your year, I would imagine.
Yes, it
One
is.
of them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But we don't, all we have is a website. We don't advertise it. It's just, and they just keep coming back.
Well, do you have repeaters?
No, you can only, it's a one and done thing. You can only compete one time.
Mm.
Now, the coaches can have teams, but they can compete one time in land, one time in the home site evaluation, and then we have a range competition. But in the land and home site, it's a one and done. You can compete one time.
Do they get money, or is it just a trophy?
Trophy. I have the trophies over here in the box, trophies and medals.
So. We're thinking for scholarships for college, but...
OSU does offer a scholarship, but they have to come to OSU to get it. So,
have any of them taken them up?
Last year was the first year, and I don't think any of them took it up. But it's a full scholarship for. They'd offer 2 scholarships, one for the top person in land judging, and one for the top person in home site evaluation. So that's something new to the contest.
And then no one took it last year.
I don't think anybody took it. I haven't talked to Jason Warren about that. He's the one that I work with at OSU. So
that's pretty good. I mean, you've been doing it since, oh gosh, over 50 years then?
Yes.
If I'm doing my math, well over 50 years.
Yes. I've thought back of how many students, would be involved in at the local level. How many people compete in the local levels and state levels and to come to the national. I mean, we get, each state can bring 5 teams in each of the division. So how many kids is involved in some portion of the land and home site and range site?
You've seen a lot come through.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but it's, like I said, it's got a lot of good people working it, and a lot of them worked it for several years.
Have any of the other states tried to steal it away?
They did years ago, but then they saw how much work it was, and they decided maybe they didn't want it. So it takes, we raised about $50,000 to put the contest on. So, and then, but the big thing is we have, I couldn't even estimate the number of hours of volunteers and agencies' time that's put in. I jokingly tell people they can retire from their job, but the only way they get out of land judging is die. You have to die from land judging.
So you'll be doing it for a while longer than that. How do you prepare for it? Do you have your boots and...
Oh no, I don't do all of that. I let those volunteers do that.
You just watch?
Yeah. Most of my work is done prior to the contest.
Okay.
In the
lining everything up?
Get them to the field and turn them loose to the scientist in the field. And then, they have scorecards and they come into the tabulators and they tabulate the scores. And so this has all got to be done.
Quickly.
We start the contest we get them out to the field about 9:30 in the morning, have the contest, get the scorecards back in, and have a awards banquet at 6 o'clock. So it's
on the same day.
On the same day. So it's done pretty quickly. And everybody just falls.
Well, when they get here earlier, what did they do in the days up to
Okay, the
it?
first 2 days, I didn't talk about that. The first 2 days we have the soil scientist and range specialist are out in the field. We have practice areas where they can come and get familiar with the soils and plants from Oklahoma, from this area, from central Oklahoma.
Close to where the
Yeah.
sites that
Yeah.
they're going to be testing?
Within 30 to 40 miles of where the site's going to be.
Okay.
So, the practice area is at Lake Arcadia at the wildlife.
It's the same place every year then?
Yes, yeah, we can have it the same place every year. And well, and the soil scientists, as I said, soil scientists and the range specialists are out there helping them. So that's really the education part of the contest.
Okay.
So.
Same police motorcade take them there?
Mm-hmm. Same, we've had a few of the policemen retired over the years, but they look forward to it. They get a T-shirt, so. So
it's an educational process that ends with competition?
yes.
Okay.
On Wednesday night before the competition, we have a social forum. Get a disc jockey and let them dance. And
Well, now is it a mix of girls and boys?
oh yes, we probably have more girls involved
Really?
in it than guys.
Hmm.
So. And
About when did that start to change?
oh, gradually, probably started probably in the 70s, I'm guessing it was, and then gradually, I know one young lady that I'm acquainted with personally, and she was from Beggs, Oklahoma, and won it. I'm trying to think, she would be about 50 years old now, so that was 30-something years ago when she won it. So
Wow.
So
About half of it's about midway point then. It's
yeah.
been going on 67 years.
But for a long time, it was only guys.
Did
Well,
they,
when the girls started into FFA, and I don't know exactly when that was, but it was a boys' club. So.
I mean, 4-H has always been both.
Yes.
I would think. I think it has been.
We have more FFA competing than we do 4-H.
In which one of the categories do you have more
Land judging.
land?
But home site evaluation was something new. It's been going on for 30 years, but it wasn't in the contest for a long time. But it's getting more popular because more of these kids that are in FFA and 4-H are from urban areas.
Mm.
And so it's especially in the Midwest. So.
Makes sense too, I guess.
Yeah, so.
Do they have to pay their way?
They pay their own way. There's they have a registration fee, $200 registration fee and they pay their own way. And so.
Someone's fundraising somewhere for them, I guess.
The Hawaiian team is coming this year, and I understand they have a GoFundMe account set up to help pay for their expenses. So
Does the team usually come from there?
usually we have one
Wow.
team from Hawaii.
Hmm.
So
That'd be the furthest, I guess, unless Alaska.
we used to have them coming from Maine, but they haven't been here in several years. So probably what happened was the sponsor, the coach probably retired, and so no one that picked it up. I'm guessing that's what happened. So.
Mm.
But we have Washington State coming, Florida, saw a Florida team coming. Yeah, so they come from long distances. Of course, some of them come in school buses. Some of them, I know the teams from Louisiana last year came in a school bus with the coach driving the bus. He said, "Boy, that's rough." The school bus ride's pretty rough. So.
Yeah, it's bumpy.
Yes.
Yeah. So that takes up a good chunk of your time this time of the year, or do you start planning?
Someone asked when you start planning, and I said just when we give the last trophy away at the banquet.
Start thinking ahead.
So you start planning and thinking about what you're going to do next year.
So that's part of what you do. What else do you do with your time? when you're not doing that?
A lot of it is assisting with the natural resource days. And then we have a state cost share program that we work with the NRCS people, the technical people, in getting that administered. And that pretty well takes up my half time, so. But in the, I don't think we're gonna have any this spring, but most of the time in April and first part of May, we have kids. But with the teachers' situation this year, they're not leaving the classrooms for their testing and stuff. So, but in the fall, we'll have 7 or 8 natural resource days and getting those planned. And
So before you were doing this part-time, your other job?
I was, before I did this, I was the executive director for the Association of Conservation Districts.
OACD, okay.
And so, I was the first, as I said, I was the first one of those.
And that was a paid gig?
That was a paid. It was supposed to be a part-time, but that was not the case.
Well, what would you have to do for that?
Well, organize all their meetings. We had several days that we went to the legislature we didn't lobby, we down there to educate the legislators on the needs of conservation. And I was also coordinating the land judging contest as part of that. But the area meetings, the state meetings, and we have 5 areas, so you have 5 area meetings a year, 1 big state meeting. So that took a lot of time.
And would you have interaction with the commission?
Yes, yeah, we did a lot of work coordinating activities with the Conservation Commission. So.
What do you remember some of the people you served under from that committee, the conservation? Some of that
Association.
Either one. Some of the other names that we need to know.
The presidents of the association, I'm trying to think. Rick Jeans was one of them from up at Tonkawa. Royce Casey from down Pittsburgh County. Drawing a blank on names now.
They try to get some from around the state.
Usually, these were the presidents of the association that I was working with.
Right.
So, for the SCS NRCS group, I either worked under or I worked with all of their state conservationists except the first one. There was one state conservationist that had transferred before I came to work for SCS. But after that, I've either, like I said, I've worked with them, or I've worked under them, worked with them. So
the one I'm a little familiar with is Roland Willis.
Roland Willis, yeah.
Because he's in Stillwater.
Yes, Roland, Ron Clark. Ray Walker was the first one that I worked under. Bill Vaught, Hamp Burns. So
each of them have different.
Daryl Dominic.
He's Stillwater too. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then I worked with several of the executive directors of the Conservation Commission. Worked with Leonard Solomon.
I've heard that name, yes.
Okay, yes, I'm sure from conservation districts. He was another one of my mentors. So.
Okay.
Mason Mungle, I think you know Mason.
Yep, I know Mason.
Mike Thralls, and now Trey Lamb. So.
Different administrators have different whatever.
Yep, different.
Personalities and such.
But they all have the same goal, conservation.
Okay.
So they just go at it a little differently. So,
Just have to learn their quirks and go on, huh?
Yep.
Well, I know watershed is a big deal for someone I'm interviewing. Is that a part of what you had to do here too?
We only have one active two active watersheds. One is up in Logan, Lincoln, and northern part of Oklahoma County. We have the watershed site there that was built. Actually, it was built in the 50s. And then we have one other site on the Kickapoo Nation's watershed that was built in the 80s. I was involved with getting the easements and getting that construction done. We have other sites planned, but because of the urbanization and development that's gone on in that area, we can't build them.
Was it issues with landowners just aren't interested?
Well, it's not that they're not interested. I mean, if you've got 5 acres and you need to get 6 acres of easement off that 5 acres, you know. So it's, they're donated easements.
They don't get paid for it.
Now when you're out, and the one that we got built, most of the lake was on 2 easements. The guy had one easement. He had 2 quarters of land and just had some fringes of some others that we had to get. And so that one was fairly easy to get because he has a nice 35-acre lake on there that he can use.
As a result of it?
Yes. So
you have to be able to explain the benefits.
Yes.
And the costs with the benefits.
Yes. Yeah. So.
Has there been any litigation, any opposed or problems with something that you've?
We haven't had much here. So we had some other watersheds that were planned. The one up in the northwest part of the county, but it never got off the ground because of the urbanization. Just gets too many people involved, and a lot of people have to give an easement. They don't even get any water because the flood area that it goes to. So they're not too willing to give an easement for that. So
they have to be willing to see the big picture, I guess.
Yes.
Well, on the ones that are over 50 years old, then the structures are. Who maintains those?
This Conservation District and Conservation Commission. We inspect them annually, and they're still functioning. The one up there on the Bear Fall and Coon Creek watershed is still a functioning watershed. It's still still impounding the water during the heavy rains and release it slowly. So
just have to make sure the drain's not stopped up.
Yep, like I said, we do an annual inspection on it, and it's been kept up. So not every place they've kept them up. They're having the NRCS and the Conservation Commission have some money now to go in and rehab some of those sites. But,
well, I'm thinking from working in like Watauga to here, there'd be quite a difference.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
in your customers, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people think you don't have a workload here, but there's a lot of the urban folks are very conservation minded. They just don't know. They just don't know what to do. And over the years, we've worked with governmental agencies, cities, counties, and we did a lot of training of the Oklahoma City stormwater people in erosion control, and we've done over that. They have their own staff now, but before they had their own staff, we did a lot of training with them. So,
other than doing the contest, do you have any reason to use your soil knowledge?
Well, I think I use it every day. I garden.
Oh, that's fine. And thinking people that don't know pour stuff down those storm drains.
Yeah.
Is that part of what?
Yes.
Try to educate
we work
them?
with the Blue Thumb program,
I don't know much about that.
It's a water quality program that's funded, EPA funds it actually, and it's administered through the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
So it's water education.
Blue for water.
Blue thumb.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking green for plants. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. We work with that group quite a bit. So
Tools of the trade. What would normally have with you when you on a typical day if you're out in the field doing something?
most of the tools of the trade is just knowledge.
Not a pocket knife.
Well, it would be interesting to see with these kids in these holes with their pocket knife digging in the soil. But as a soil scientist, you have an auger or a truck that's got a auger on the back of it.
Mm.
So
And that goes down several layers. Yeah.
take the core out and look, and then take your knife and pick at it, and take your acid bottle and see if you got some acid. Do the pH evaluation of it. And check to see if it's clay or loam or silty, how deep it is. Oh, there's a rock there, you know, it's that's as deep as we can go. So, and after a while, you can almost, as a soil scientist, you can almost walk out when you're familiar with the soils and how they lay in the topography. You can go out and look and almost map it without ever digging a hole, because you see the lay of the land and the vegetation is growing on it.
So when you're just out driving around, are you paying attention to that sort of thing? Just out of habit?
When we were vacationing, our kids was always saying, "Oh, Dad's just going to show us some soil." so
Well, I mean, conservation is not just soil either. I guess it's, monarch butterflies and stuff like that.
Speaking of monarch butterflies, we just got through with the program where we got $25,000 to cost share with some landowners to improve some wildlife habitat, butterfly monarch along I-35, the corridor, I-35 corridor. So we worked with landowners in developing some habitat.
Planting things?
Mostly is removing cedars,
Oh.
so that natural plants will come back.
Well, it has a double purpose too. It cuts down on
Yes.
fire too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, we just got through with that program. So
You have your fingers in various things then.
yes, it comes so natural that you don't think about what you're doing on some days. So
Did your children go into this type of work?
no.
No. But they appreciate it, I would
Yes.
think.
Oldest daughter is a CPA for a large nursing home company. The other daughter is the executive director for the professional engineers and land surveyors. She's a state employee. My oldest son is an engineer, a facilities engineer for the VA hospital, and my youngest son is a track coach.
Well,
So
in dirt a little bit.
yeah,
Dirt then, not soil at that point, dirt.
yeah.
Oh, but they appreciate what you did. Yeah, I
so-
would think.
And but I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for people you work with and landowners. They're so appreciative of things that you do with them and for them, and so.
And you liked what you ended up doing better than the land reclamation where you start your first job out of the.
Yes, I have a variety of work, and I interact with people more than I did with soil survey. Soil survey, you're pretty much out on your own, out there alone, doing it, and you start talking to yourself sometime, asking yourself questions and answering them. So but I felt like I had some people skills, and I want to work with people more. Take that knowledge and work with people.
And share it.
So
I was reading somewhere that you were probably here when they did the last county for Oklahoma, soil survey for the county in Muskogee County.
I was at that
Do
celebration.
you remember?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was did the map the last acre. Leonard Solomon, as I mentioned, he was the commissioner. He was the executive director for the Conservation Commission. Helped coordinate that. But we had the big ceremony where we mapped the last acre, you know, so.
Well, how long does it take to do a county, typically,
5 to 10 years.
to do one county? And you've got several of those going on at the same time, or they just did it one county at a time?
One person was assigned to a county most of the time. Or you were assigned, a team was assigned to a county.
And you actually go out and walk the whole, acre by acre?
Walk it, drive it, anything you can do to it. So, anyway, you can get around it. Use stereoscopes, use topography maps, aerophotograph. Aerophotograph is essential to have, so.
Well, once it's done, do they go back and do it again?
Well, advances in knowledge.
Technology.
When they did the first soil surveys, there was maybe 5 different soils was mapped. And now that same survey may have 125 different soils.
Wow.
So you're delineating more finely and
Well, does it take as much time?
takes more time.
Yeah, so instead of 10 years, it take 15 or 20?
Well, it probably, most of them can do them in 10 years.
Okay, 77 counties, I'm thinking that would take a
There's
while.
more than one person working them. But when I was the soil scientist, we had about between 35 and 40 soil scientists working.
Okay.
Today, there's probably 5 or 7 maybe in the state working on soil surveys. I'm not sure how many that is. It's a small number.
And they'd be paid by the state or paid federal?
Federal.
It's federal?
Federal, those are NRCS employees, so.
So you get retirement from both, if you've done what you do and you get state
Well,
and
actually,
federal?
I just get the federal retirement because I'm a non-classified employee with the state and I have no benefits. So when they get off for holidays, I get off for holidays, but I just don't get paid, so.
There you go.
Like I said, I wouldn't do it, but it'd low the people and not just the co-workers, but driving through the county, seeing work that's done, that you had some kind of an influence on it. I was also been fortunate enough that I've helped with some of the NRCS training classes that the training headquarters is out of Fort Worth, but they have several classes that's been held in Oklahoma City, and I get fortunate enough to help with some of those. So
Impart your
with new
knowledge.
employees, and new employees, when I tell them that I've started to work 20 years before they were born, they look like, gee, am I going to have to work this long? So
Oh, you're here by choice, though.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Where do you see, like 10 years from now? What do you?
Well, I don't like when I was working in our SCS, we had somewhere between 500 and 700 people working in the state. And now we have 200 working. And I mean, there's not the emphasis on the assistance to conservation as there was at one time. We've done too good a job, probably.
And they've streamlined it, or just
Streamlined
or
and
just stopped doing things?
to the point where you can't hardly be effective. I mean, when you get down to so few employees, you can't, I mean, you're just, shouldn't use this analogy, but putting out fires, you know, you don't, you can't develop a program and see it through, and because there's so much stuff that you have to do, paperwork and stuff like that, that you don't get out and have the interaction with landowners.
Is there a competition with extension agents, extension services?
No, we pretty well work together on, they've got their role, and we've got our role, and so.
So it's not that type of
No,
competition either then?
No, I mean, federal and state dollars is the competition.
Okay.
I mean, there's just not that much money there. So, I mean, whenever you worked in the county, or at one time, we had funds where we could cost share with landowners to build 100 ponds in a year, and now we might get 3 or 5 ponds cost shared on. So there's just not that much money to assist the landowners.
Well, are there that many landowners wanting assistance?
There, if the money was there, yes, they would. Yes, it would.
Just seems like there's less and less farms.
Yes, and like I said, there's less and less emphasis, I think, from all levels right now.
So in 10 years, that 200 may be down to.
Doesn't look like it's growing. So that's the federal employees I'm talking about. State employees, they've cut. I don't know how many they've cut, but it's a bunch. The conservation districts are funded through money appropriated to the Conservation Commission, and then distributed to the counties, and that's been cut severely.
Well, that's why you go to the courthouse and to the Capitol and.
We've been down there. We couldn't go down there last week because the teachers were still there. So the teachers get more attention. So, but we do go down there 2 or 3 times a year, and talk to them and let them know that we do have a program, and so.
Well, some of that too. The Conservation Commission folks are doing the same.
Well,
having the same conversations.
We're working in conjunction with them. So,
right.
Yeah. So.
Well, looking back over your 50+ years, and are there a couple of highlights?
Oh, I guess not just one stands out.
No, but it can be more than one.
But as I said, just working with the people, the employees, and also conservation district directors. You have got boards you've got 5 people on a board out there that dedicate a lot of their time and efforts to keeping the conservation district going. And, but people, national people. I still know some of the people nationally that I've worked with or been acquainted with over the years. I served on our professional society, the Soil and Water Conservation Society. I served on their board of directors for actually a 6-year stint and a 3-year stint. So I spent a total of 9 years working, going to the meetings and doing the board action stuff that needed to be done. So.
Seeing what they were doing in other states. Oklahoma keeping up fairly well.
Oh yeah, Oklahoma has been a leader in conservation.
That's what I was thinking. I know for watersheds they too,
and get to meet people from Tennessee, Cookeville, Tennessee.
Well, I know where that is.
You know where that is, don't you? So.
Yep.
So.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you got some strange questions from people around. What's been 1 or 2 of the strangest? Can you think of something?
Oh, years ago, I got a question. This lady, she called in and she said, my neighbor's swimming pool slid down the hill, and we're getting ready to build a swimming pool. Will ours slide down the hill too? I said, well, and this, actually, there was stability of the soil, and they filled it full of water, and all that weight caused it to start moving down as on the slope. And yes, probably will, you know.
Especially if you're right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have to go out and look, or just?
Actually, I went by and looked at it, yeah, so. And said it's probably gonna be, I would suggest you get a structural engineer out here before you build it, to see what, so.
Counteract that, huh?
Another one that hadn't even, you know, stuff that you don't think of. This was years ago that a lady, she says, I'm using newspaper for mulch. What effect will the ink have on the soil? Well, at that time, there were probably, I don't know, lead might have been in the ink. And I hadn't even thought of that kind of a thing, but after she said it, I thought, yeah, maybe you better investigate, see what kind of effect the ink would have on the soil. So.
Well, would you do that, or would she?
No,
would you do that?
You'd have to find out what's in the ink. You know, I'm sure that the ink's changed it.
Yeah, now it comes off of your fingers, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to not come off on you. Now, so I mean, just things like that. So.
She's trying to be really.
This was probably 30, 40 years ago when that one happened. She was trying to be an environmentalist before that was
cool.
Cool, yeah. So.
Well, if you didn't know an answer, like soil related though, where would you go for answers? I mean, she would go figure out the ink part, but if there was a soil question.
Depending on what question it is.
Yeah, what would be your source? You get books or now computers, I'm sure,
Yeah.
or would you have someone you would call?
Usually another agency or an expert in that area.
Yeah.
We don't try to be experts on everything, so.
Can have a network.
Yeah. So. And a lot of people that they call in, they don't know where to call or what they're looking for. So, but just referrals, and they're very happy if you'll take the time and help them.
Yep. A librarian says that same response.
Yes.
You don't want to be the end.
I don't have that. I've always told the people here, let's help people as much as we can, because they're desperate sometimes. Find an answer, and it's probably easier to find it on the computer now than it was a few years ago. But you can't tell them just go to the phone book and call somebody, you know.
Mm-mm.
And they really appreciate you helping them. We did a emergency project out by Jones one year, and we got it done quickly. I mean, the water was about to take out the road, floodwaters, and we got in and rip-rapped it and saved the road. And a lady wrote a letter to a congressman with CC talking about the efficiency of government, and that what a quick and good job we did. Now that makes you proud, because most people don't have that opinion of government. So whenever you can do something to help people, and they appreciate it.
So that would be something that your agency would do versus Department of Transportation to keep the road.
Well, we would talk to county commissioners. I mean, that was, we had some special money for for emergency projects where it was eroding, and if it had cut across, the road had cut across, you'd had a bridge going to nowhere. Because and it's a road out by Jones where there's a lot of traffic. So we had some special money that we could use, some emergency monies that we could use, and we got it used efficiently and saved that road. That road's still there.
Right.
So.
I can see you going on a tour of the county saying, I can tell you something about this, this, and this.
Yeah, that pond's still there. There's that project that we did over there, and so.
You've left your fingerprint in various places.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling too.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very good. So.
Any things that didn't work?
Well, I don't want to talk about them.
Okay.
No.
Any major things that didn't work?
I had an incident one time that we were trying to get an easement for flood control lake from this lady. Her husband was deceased, but he had worked on the project. He was the associate county commissioner. I mean, extension agent, not county commissioner, extension agent. And he had worked on this, and he wanted this flood control project. And so we went out to the place and talked to the lady. She was quite elderly. Her health wasn't real good, but she said, yes, I'll sign it because her husband wanted the project. Well, shortly after that, she passed away. They had no children, and her grandson, or her nephew, I guess, her nephew came in, and he was quite distraught because he thought that we had caused his aunt's grieving to cause her to die over that. And that was probably the low time of my career, is when he come in and said, we feel like you contributed to my auntie's death. And trying to explain to him what we had done. And as it turned out, we become friends. So that's a low point and a high point in that. So.
Your people skills come in handy there.
Had another the flood control project that the guy leasing the land didn't want the landowner to sign the easement, and he did it anyway. And he was very angry at me, and now he's a good friend. So there's some things that you don't want people angry at you, or I don't anyway, but work with them. And
what's that in the moment response that you have to maneuver through?
There's been some times when you had to discipline the employee. That's never fun to have to do.
Well, has the job been an 8 to 5, or has it been more than a 40-hour work week?
Oh, it's a position. I mean, it's a...
You leave when the work's done, huh?
Yes. And most of the time it's 8 to 5, but I mean, we didn't have to punch a clock. And, if you had to come in early or stay late, you did it. If you had to go out on a Saturday to do a job, well, you did it, so.
Have a company car?
Usually didn't take the government car on the weekend. So.
It's been a pretty good gig. You'd do it again?
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, you're still doing it, obviously. But
I don't know what I would have been if I hadn't have done this. I've thought of that. What if I hadn't done this? What would I be today? I wouldn't be as happy, I know.
And you can trace that back to a decision that you made at Oklahoma State when you were deciding what to major in?
Yeah.
And your advisor was?
Fenton Gray.
And he's the one that helped you figure that out?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name. I'll have to go back and see what else there is about him.
He's deceased. He was a soil morphology professor. He was different, but he was a good guy. Well, actually, the first advisor I got was Fred LaCrone. Now, you've probably run across that name.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, he was the first advisor that I had. And he was, I mean, I enrolled in courses that I had no idea what I was getting into. Animal husbandry, I mean, I knew that you took care of cattle, but I didn't know what an animal husbandry course would be, so, but
Was your roommate doing something similar?
he's the engineer.
Oh, so he didn't help.
No,
He didn't help
no,
you figure
no,
that out
he
either.
he didn't know any more than I did about what he was doing, no, either, so he got a degree in engineering, so.
And you said you liked the basketball. Did you go to games?
Yes. Yeah, went to all the games.
In the 50s, who was that when, was Sutton playing at that time? Eddie Sutton, was he on the?
Yeah, I saw Eddie Sutton play.
Thinking he was
yeah.
about that time period.
Mr. Iba was the basketball coach, and Cliff Spiegel was the football coach. And I saw my first collegiate wrestling match. We didn't have high school wrestling any place around over in that area that I grew up in. And so the first match, it was at the old Gallagher, which seated about 6,000. And they were wrestling OU, and someone come by and said, let's go to the wrestling match. And I said, oh, I don't want to go see that. All I'd seen is professional wrestling on TV. And they said, yeah, come on, let's go. We went over there. We ended up, the place was packed. I mean, 6,000 people. We ended up sitting in the aisle. I mean, because I told the guy, I said, I've got some studying I need to do, but I'll go over there just for a while, you know. So we went late, and Gallagher was completely full, over full.
Wow.
And I saw my first collegiate wrestling match. So
Did you go back?
went back, got my blood quick. So when Mulch was playing basketball with Kansas, I saw we beat Kansas, and I was there that night. It turned out to be almost a riot on campus.
Oh, you remember? Wow.
Yeah, they actually turned out school the next day because the people were
Still excited, huh?
very excited. There was some rioting went on. I mean, it just,
Wow.
even back then.
Over Wilt or over beating Kansas.
Beating Kansas. They, Oklahoma A&M, I guess we were still A&M then, held the ball for almost 4 minutes at the end of the game and shot and hit. The game was tied. Shot at the buzzer and made it. But they held the ball. Of course, you got a time clock now, so you can't do that. But
I wonder if that went into their decision to think about changing that rule or
Yeah.
adding that rule.
yeah.
Do you remember who made the shot?
Mel Wright.
Mel Wright. No, I don't think he's, I've heard that name. I don't think he's still living.
I don't
I'll
know.
have to look.
Yeah,
I'll look.
okay,
I like basketball.
yeah. Yeah, Eddie Sutton was playing that time.
Okay. Well, then I have to ask, did you spend any time in the library?
Yes, I did. I did spend time in the library. One of the reasons that you spent time in the library there is you could meet your girlfriend at the library. And that's one of the places the girls could check out and go to.
Okay. From their dorms. Okay, gotcha.
I mean, they check
They
out.
had curfews too.
Yes, yeah, the girls had curfews, so they could go to the library as long as you got you had to sign. They had to get a signed deal. Boys didn't have curfew.
not there, but.
So, well, I know this.
So you went and met your future wife there?
Well, yes.
Would spend time with her there?
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of books in the library.
Which floor do you know?
I can't remember the floor. There was a study room, and actually I had a little portable typewriter, and I'd take the typewriter there, and she would do the typing for me.
Not do your work for you?
No, it was,
you'd handwrite it and she'd type it?
Yeah. Reports and things, she typed them.
What was her name? We need to get that on.
Her name is Alice, but Alice Darlene, so it's Darlene. Darlene Donathan was her name. Actually, I pretty much knew her all my life. Her dad and my dad went to grade school together. So, but we went to different schools, high schools, competing high schools.
You knew of each other though?
Yes, yeah. And she was in class of 12 also. And so it was like, you know, the girls in my class, a lot of them, I felt like they were my sisters. So you go to the competing school to date girls, you know. It's only 7 miles apart. So.
How big was the school building itself? Was it several rooms, or were they split classes?
The high school, it was, it had 4 rooms and a study hall. No, 3 rooms and a study hall. 4 rooms. Had a typing room.
There you go.
There's a picture in today's paper of it, or maybe on Facebook, something, typing class, with people sitting in the typing class. And do you remember this? So.
I took typing. I was not very good, but they don't do it now. It's keyboarding, I guess. I don't even know if they do that now.
I don't think they do it. I think you just learn it as a 4-year-old. So.
Yeah.
So.
Times have changed, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah.
But water's still water, and soil's still soil.
Soil's still soil. Yeah.
Although it's getting less of water and more damaged soil, right?
Actually, probably not. I mean, of course, you know, but we still have the same amount of water we've always had. We did a water program for a group of DAR women. This game that they play and make a bracelet and stuff. And so the question was, do you have more water or less water than we had a certain time ago? And this one lady argued that it was less. And I don't think we ever convinced her it's the same amount.
Well, I don't know.
But it's just in different forms. As we tell some of the kids, maybe this is some of the water that dinosaurs drank that you're drinking today. So it's just recycled in different forms.
I mean, we have to deal with pollution, I guess, that part of it.
Well, pollution, and salt gets into the ocean, and then it has to be, salt water's considered a polluted water, so.
Well, and then with Oklahoma, with all the fracking and stuff that's going on, there's a water issue there too, isn't there?
Well, actually, most of the water that's being put back in the ground from fracking is well below the water table. It's in the saltwater zones.
Okay.
So.
I would imagine you might get some questions like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think some of the questions we get, but I can't think of them right now. So.
Was there a time when they would call you at home?
Do I know?
Was there a time when they would call you at home with a question?
I've had a few, but not most of the time. We didn't give our.
I think extension workers used to get more at home.
Yes.
Than probably you would.
We didn't give our home phone numbers that much.
We've covered a lot. Is there anything that we need to that I haven't thought to ask?
Oh, I don't think so. like I said,
What's any innovations or interventions during your career that stand out?
computer.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, it's changed the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember when the secretary had to use the carbon paper typing with 5 carbons, you know.
To make copies, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
communications, all the paper communications we used to get. But we loaded up one time, several people from our state office, and they come by and picked me up. And we went to Ada, to this machine that this guy, that you could put a book in there, and it would read the book and tell you how many times a certain word came up. And we went all the way to Ada to see it at the East Central University. I mean, this would have been in probably the 60s or early 70s.
Wow.
I mean, people don't realize how little time has passed since all this technology has come about.
And the internet itself was what, early 90s, something like that, and since that time it's just major.
And but our workforce had changed too. When I started to work, you intended to go to work and retire in that position. But now people are mobile, looking at positions, you know, and like I said, this guy in our office, NRCS employee, he decided that a job opened up in New York. He decided to go New York City. Ag marketing service, completely different from conservation, but it sounded good and he wanted to explore New York.
Hey. Well, with you having started in 61, you could have probably retired in 30 years.
I retired in 01.
But you probably could have with 30
I was
with 30
62,
years.
I think, when I retired. Has that been right? 36.
Well, I know some that's,
No, I was older than that.
I think with federals used to be able to retire at
50.
55.
55, yeah, 30 years.
Hey, that doesn't happen too much anymore either, I wouldn't think.
Well, in all professions, people, they don't go to work to stay in that position for their whole career.
So you're saying you're a dying breed?
I'm a dying breed. Most of my breed's already dead.
No.
So, no, but I've been fortunate. I had good health.
Yeah, and you like what you're doing still, so that's a big part.
Yeah, I don't have to work. I mean, and I have a good board to work for. They're flexible. If we don't have anything to do, I don't come to work.
Right.
I mean, but if we have a lot to do, I come till we get it done. So
that's pretty good. Well, if you don't have anything else, my last question I like to ask is, when history is written about you, what would you like for it to say? Basically, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, I guess I would like to say he made a difference and enjoyed it.
Hey.
I guess that would be something that
I would imagine people would agree with that statement.
So.
It's been a good career.
It's been a good career.
Yep. Not too far from Colton,
Oklahoma. I went back there and there's not much there anymore. So there was probably 150 people lived there in the little, and we knew them all. So, but now they're all gone. There's nobody there well, I'll take that back. I met a lady, I went to a funeral over there, met a lady that, she married a guy that I knew and she still lived there.
Could you go back and spot the place where you put your first fertilizer down? Would you remember where that was?
I know it's up on the hill on some land that we leased.
Well, there you
I
go.
don't know exactly where it would be, but yeah.
Should go get a test tube.
Yeah. The house that we lived in, they converted, first of all, after we left there, they converted to a chicken house, and now it's completely gone, and I would like to go over there and mess around, but I don't know the guy that's got the land now, so he might shoot me, so.
Run quick.
So,
All right. Well, I think it's been a good interview. Thank you very
well,
much
thank
for
you,
talking
thank
with
you.
us. It's
I've
been fun.
enjoyed it.